Look, neither of these teams are very good, but in a week of very little top 25 matchups, I felt like this was a game worth discussing. Why? Because it's the first ever meeting between Arkansas State and Arkansas. Listen to this. There are 32 states out there that have multiple FBS teams. 31 of them have witnessed an in-state matchup. The only one that hasn't is Arkansas. Arkansas State and Arkansas, they're both FBS programs. Razorbacks in the SEC, Red Wolves in the Sun Belt, but they have refused to play each other, and that's a debate throughout the state. Oh, Arkansas refuses to do it. Frank Broyles refused to do it. They have nothing to gain from it. All this junk. It's over now. They're finally doing it. Might be the only time they play each other, but they're actually going to meet this Saturday in Little Rock, War Memorial Stadium, and that's why this is a game worth talking about. It's a historic game and something that we may never see again. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad you could join us today. We're going to really do a deep dive on a game that we typically wouldn't talk about, but again, this feels worth it. Arkansas State, they opened the year up with a 42-24 win over Southeast Missouri State, so did what they were supposed to do, maybe allow more points than they should have, although 2 of those touchdowns came later in the fourth quarter when the game was well out of reach. Arkansas opened up their season with a 52-7 win over Alabama A&M. They allowed Alabama A&M to score on their opening drive, maybe scared a few Razorback fans, but then they never scored again. The Razorbacks' offense was a well-oiled machine in year 2 under Bobby Petrino as offensive coordinator, not a head coach, some would say, unfortunately. But this is going to be an interesting game because I think both these teams do have an offense that's capable of putting up a lot of points. So start with Arkansas State. To me, definitely the strength of the team. It really has never been defense under Butch Jones, right? A lot of the top players for ASU have returned for the Red Wolves in 2025. That's why it's going to be interesting to see some veteran leadership, namely Jalen Rayner, who was phenomenal last year at quarterback for the Red Wolves, was phenomenal in the season opener against Southeast Missouri State, 345 yards and 3 touchdowns. He returns, as we just mentioned, with Jaquez Cross as well, and Corey Rucker, who's a dangerous wide receiver and a dangerous deep threat. And if the Hogs aren't careful, they're going to get beat a couple times by Corey Rucker. This is a game for Arkansas State where obviously no one's given them much of a fighting chance. This is a game where they're going to need a lot of chunk plays. If they want to beat the Razorbacks, you're going to need some big plays, some deep shots to Rucker, some really big long runs, some breakdowns in the Razorback defense that ASU is able to exploit, right? That's what you're going to need. Last week, I thought their offense was fairly balanced, 345 passing yards, 147 rushing yards. 10 players recorded a catch last week for Arkansas State, so did a good job of spreading the ball out, getting a lot of people involved, and that's exactly what they're going to need now against Arkansas. The Razorbacks don't have that great of a defense, neither does Arkansas State, which is why I think you could see quite a bit of points here, but I would not be surprised in the slightest to see Butch Jones and the Red Wolves pull out all the stops offensively, because as the saying goes, they have nothing to lose. Arkansas State has everything to gain, nothing to lose. Arkansas has everything to lose and nothing to gain. That is the talk throughout the state and has been for years and years and years. So that's going to be what I'm interested to see. What does ASU pull out? What do they do? They're going to pull out all the stops. Arkansas, look, they've got a great quarterback. Taylon Green just tied a program record last week. I know it was against Alabama A&M, but still, tied a program record last week with 6 touchdowns. 24 for 31, 322 passing yards, 41 rushing yards. Didn't really run the ball that often last week, and I do think that was by design. Green was banged up a little bit towards the end of last year. His health is the most important thing for Arkansas this season. If he goes down, the Razorbacks are done for. So I think Petrino is going to try to limit the amount of hits that Green takes, limit maybe the amount of designed runs that Green has, but also last week, they didn't need to have any designed runs for Taylor Green because they could have beaten Alabama A&M in theory with their backup quarterback or a third-string quarterback. So I think you see Green move the ball with his legs a little bit more this Saturday. I think that's something that Arkansas State's really going to have to account for and something they might struggle with a little bit. But this is a game, too, where in theory the Hogs should be able to pound the rock. They should be able to dominate in the trenches and run the ball at will because that's what Sam Pittman wants to do. That's what Sam Pittman wants to do. He wants to run the football down your throat. They've got a great running back in Mike Washington. They've got a great running back in Braylon Russell. They had 205 rushing yards last week, and Arkansas State last year allowed 212 rushing yards per game. They have not been very good at stopping the run under Butch Jones, and that's something that if Sam Pittman and Petrino recognize, and they don't try to get cute or fancy, they should be able to run the ball all day long, dominate time of possession, and Arkansas State should not be able to stop it. But it's easier said than done. The Razorbacks, of course, still building chemistry at wide receiver. They've got Omega Blake, who was phenomenal last week, 121 yards and a touchdown. C.J. Brown, Raylan Sharp, many others that have transferred in to this program. Again, this is a game where if Arkansas just sticks to their game, sticks to the ground, they should be able to dominate from start to finish and walk away with the win. The reason I say that is because Arkansas State's defense is a problem. It has never been strong under Butch Jones. He enters his 5th year in Jonesboro. Only one starter back on defense from last year's squad. I know they added some transfers, but only one starter back from last year's defense, one that has allowed at least 405 yards per game every year under Butch Jones, and has allowed at least 162 rushing yards per game every year under Butch Jones. Think about that. Every year, they've allowed at least over 400 yards per game and over 160 rushing yards per game. That bodes well for Arkansas, who in theory is bigger and faster and stronger in every aspect of this game, right? You look at last year, the 2 games that Arkansas State played against Power 4 opponents, they allowed 301 rushing yards to Michigan. They allowed 237 rushing yards to Iowa State. That's obviously a concern, but I would say the secondary is a bit of a concern too. Last week against Southeast Missouri State, they allowed 272 passing yards to SEMO. This is a game where, you've kind of got to pick. If you're Arkansas State, what do you focus on to contain? And for me, it's Taylon Green. That's the guy that I'm going after the most. Pressure him. He doesn't have great pocket awareness. He takes some unnecessary hits. If you can limit him and keep him in the pocket, he's a good passer. Clearly had 6 touchdowns last week. But if you can keep him to the pocket, now allow him to extend plays, force him to throw, I think your secondary can come up with a handful of decent plays, especially if you can force Arkansas into some second and third and long situations. That's going to be the key. So no big plays from the Hogs. Force Taylon Green to deliver from inside the pocket. You might have a shot to keep this game close. Arkansas defensively, it's kind of torn right now, right? Their opening drive last week defensively was really bad. They allowed Alabama A&M to march right down the field and tie the game up at 7, but then after that, they only allowed 160 more yards and didn't allow them to score anymore. But I think the concern for Arkansas more than anything was how bad they were in the trenches, right? Against an FCS program that wasn't any good, a game that Arkansas should have just dominated, which they did. They won by 45. They only mustered 2 sacks and 6 tackles for a loss. They have never, almost historically, never been good at pressuring opposing quarterbacks. Has not been the case under Sam Pittman. So, can they get pressure on Jalen Raynor? If they cannot, can this secondary that was just mediocre last week, just mediocre last year, can they stop this ASU passing attack? Can they stop Raynor? Can they stop Rucker? Can they stop any big-time chunk plays that ASU's going to be? Because, again, they're going to be taking deep shots. They're going to be, pulling out all the stops because they got nothing to lose. They'd love to play spoiler. So I'm looking at this game, and I am slightly concerned about Arkansas's defense just because Arkansas State's strength is their offense because they have a veteran quarterback that sees the field very well, typically makes very good decisions. That's going to be the key for the Hogs here is I'm looking at this. Your defensive line and linebacking core should find a way to stop the run. If you bottle up the run, just sell out on the secondary, get a couple turnovers, convert off those turnovers, you're going to be fine. But more than anything for Arkansas, this is one of those games where if you allow Arkansas State to hang around longer than they should, you're in very big trouble. This is one of those games where Arkansas needs to walk out there and just crush their spirits immediately, right? If Arkansas can jump out to a quick 14, 21-point lead, something like that, they should be fine. No lead is ever safe with Arkansas, as we know, but again, if you allow Arkansas State to be in this game at halftime, if you allow them to be somewhat within striking distance in the third quarter, you're in big trouble. You cannot allow Arkansas State to hang around and believe that they have a chance to win this game. Arkansas opened as a 22-point favorite. At the time of this video, it's opened up to 24. So the Hogs are expected to win big. They are expected to dominate. In theory, on paper, they should. But if you are an Arkansas fan, even if you're an Arkansas State fan, you know that's never the case. Arkansas is notorious for failing. They are notorious for losing games that they shouldn't, or they're notorious for keeping games a lot closer than they should be. And I would not be surprised at all to see that be the case on Saturday down in Little Rock. Ultimately, I'm picking the Hogs. And I'm going to pick the Hogs to win this game by double digits. I don't know if they'll cover that 24-point spread. In theory, they should. I don't know if I would touch it. But I do believe they win by double digits. I believe Arkansas should come out fast. I am really concerned about Arkansas State's ability to stop the run. I'm not sure they're strong enough in the trenches to stop that Arkansas running game that, is something they really want to do. And again, the RPO style. If they don't hand it off to Mike Washington or Braylon Russell, Taylor Green takes it around the edge for a 15, 20-yard gain. I worry about Arkansas State's ability to stop that for a full 60 minutes. I think the Hogs control the clock. I think they control the tempo. If they can get a couple early quick defensive stops and turn those into touchdowns, the lead may be insurmountable for Arkansas State. Give me the Hogs, again, to win by double digits. But I promise you, if this game is close at halftime, they're in a lot of trouble. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube, picking the Hogs to win the first ever and probably the first and only meeting against Arkansas State. History, though, will be made Saturday down at Little Rock. Tune into it if you can. Definitely something just to keep your eye on, especially in what's a relatively lackluster week in the world of college football. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks, which are some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country. We're beating out over 80% of the national handicappers, have done so each of the last 6 years. We're offering those picks for one of the lowest prices in the country. So go check it out. Sign up today. Check out our weekly newsletters as well. Sign up for those today to become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.